We've been pretending for too long that there's nothing between us. Carter didn't shout it. He didn't even raise his voice. He said it like he was exhausted, like the words had been sitting in his chest for years and he finally got tired of holding them there. We were standing in my kitchen, half lit by the range hood, the rest of the apartment dark and quiet, the city humming outside like it always did. I laughed, not because it was funny, because that's what I did when things got too close to the truth. "What are you talking about?" I asked, turning back to the sink, scrubbing the same glass I'd already cleaned twice. Behind me, I felt him shift. Carter always had a presence. Even when he wasn't saying anything, you knew where he was. Knew when he was watching you. Knew when he was deciding whether to push or back off. "That," he said. "That right there. You pretending you don't know exactly what I mean." We'd known each other since college. Met freshman year because we both showed up late to the same statistics class and ended up sitting on the floor against the wall. We were inseparable after that. Roommates, gym buddies, each other's +1 to everything. People called us a package deal so often it became a joke. Everyone assumed we'd already been together. We hadn't. That was the lie. Or maybe the truth we kept rearranging so it didn't look like what it was. I finally turned around. Carter was leaning against the counter, arms crossed, jaw tight. He looked the same as always, tall, broad-shouldered, that permanently messy dark hair like he'd just run his hands through it. But his eyes were different, tired, sharp, done. "You're drunk," I said weakly. "I had 2 beers, he replied. "Don't do that, Jared. Don't make me sound crazy just so you don't have to say anything real." That landed harder than I expected. The thing was, he wasn't wrong. There had been moments, too many to ignore if I was being honest. The way he'd linger in doorways, how nothing ever happened, and how heavy that nothing felt. I dated guys, so had he. None of them ever stuck around long. They always said the same thing eventually. "You and Carter are a lot, or worse." It feels like I'm interrupting something. I set the glass down and exhaled. "Okay," I said. "Let's say you're right. What do you want me to do with that?" Carter pushed off the counter and took a step closer. Not invading my space. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Dangerous. For the first time since I'd met him, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't afraid of losing him. I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. Carter didn't leave. That was the first thing that hit me after the silence stretched too long. He didn't grab his jacket, didn't make some half-joking excuse and retreat into the version of us that was safe and familiar. He just stood there. "I can't keep doing this, Jared." "Doing what?" My voice came out rougher than I meant it to. "Acting like we're just friends when we both know that's not the whole story." I looked away. There it was, that word again. Both. As if it was a given. As if I hadn't spent years telling myself I was imagining things, that whatever I felt was just comfort or habit or loneliness dressed up as something deeper. "You don't know that," I said. Carter let out a short laugh. Not amused. More like frustrated. "I know you better than anyone. Don't insult me." That stung. Because it was true. He knew my tells. The way I shut down when I was cornered. How I deflected with logic when emotions got too loud. How I convinced myself that not choosing was the same as choosing nothing. He ran a hand through his hair and turned away, pacing the length of the kitchen. "Do you know how many times I almost said something?" He went on. Like actually said it. Not jokes. Not half comments. Real words. And every time, you'd do something that reminded me why I shouldn't. I frowned. "Like what?" "You'd start dating someone new," he said. "Or you'd pull back just enough that I'd think, okay, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe this is just me." That landed heavy in my chest. "I wasn't trying to mess with you," I said. "I know," he replied immediately. "That's the worst part." He stopped pacing and faced me again. His shoulders dropped a little like he'd finally run out of energy. "I'm not saying this to pressure you," he said. I need you to know where I stand. Because pretending it doesn't matter is starting to hurt more than whatever happens if I say it out loud." My apartment felt smaller. Too quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat. Fast and uneven. And where do you stand? I asked even though I already knew. Carter hesitated. That surprised me. He'd always been the more confident one. The guy who spoke first acted first. Seeing him pause, really pause, did something to me. I'm in love with you, he said finally. No dramatic emphasis. No big speech. Just the truth dropped between us like something fragile. I felt dizzy. For a second, I thought about all the reasons I should shut this down. The risks. The ways it could ruin what we already had. The possibility that it wouldn't work. That we'd lose each other entirely. But underneath all that noise was something quieter. Steadier. Relief. I didn't plan for that to happen, Carter added quickly, misreading my silence. And I'm not asking you to feel the same. Carter, I interrupted. He stopped. I need a second, I said. Not because I don't care. Because I care too much. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. I walked past him into the living room. Rubbing my face like that might somehow reorganize my thoughts. Memories hit me out of nowhere. Late nights talking on the couch. His arm slung over the backrest, sometimes brushing my shoulders. Falling asleep during movies and waking up with his blanket tucked around me. The way he always noticed when I was off before anyone else did. I turned back to him. You ever think, I said slowly, that maybe I was scared for the same reason you were? He frowned. What do you mean? That if we acknowledged it, I said, we'd lose the one thing that's been constant in both our lives. Carter studied me, really looked at me, like he was piecing something together. So you're saying, he started. I'm saying, I cut in, my voice shaking now, that I've been lying too, just not very well. His eyes softened, not hopeful, careful. I took a breath. I don't know what this turns into, I said, and I can't promise it'll be easy, but I'm tired of pretending there's nothing here when it's been sitting between us for years. He didn't move, didn't touch me, just waited. I think, I continued, we owe it to ourselves to stop running from it. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not heavy, charged. Carter stepped closer, slow, like he was giving me every chance to change my mind. When he stopped in front of me, there was something in his expression I'd never seen before. Hope, yes, but restrained, respectful. Okay, he said softly. Then let's stop pretending. And for the first time, the idea didn't scare me. Felt like coming home. You okay? He asked. I nodded, then shook my head, then laughed quietly at myself. Yeah, no, I don't know, but don't step back. His lips curved slightly at that. Wasn't planning to. I became acutely aware of everything. How warm the room felt, how my hands didn't know what to do, how familiar and unfamiliar this moment was at the same time. This was the same guy who'd seen me at my worst. Hungover, anxious, insecure. The same guy I trusted with everything except this. I keep thinking, I said, about all the times this almost happened. Carter exhaled through his nose. You mean the nights we stayed up talking until 4 in the morning and pretended the couch wasn't too small? Or when you'd fall asleep during movies and I just let you, I added. His eyes flicked to mine. You knew. I'm not blind, I said. Just stubborn. He smiled at that, then sobered. I never wanted to cross a line you didn't invite me to. Something about that, about how careful he'd been, made my chest tighten. I'm inviting you now, I said quietly. It was subtle, the shift that happened after that. Like something unknotted between us. Carter lifted his hand, slow, deliberate, giving me time. When his fingers brushed my wrist, it felt louder than it should have. Electricity, cliché as that sounded. This changes things, I said. Carter nodded. It does. People will notice, I added. They already have, he said. They've just been waiting for us to catch up. That made me pause. You're not scared. I am, he admitted. But I was more scared of never knowing what this could be. He looked at me then, really looked at me like he wasn't afraid to anymore. I don't need this to be perfect, he said. I just need it to be honest. I took a breath, then another. Then maybe we start slow. I said. Figure it out as we go. Carter smiled. Not the cocky one. The real one. Friends who stop pretending, he said. And see what happens, I replied. His hand squeezed mine gently, like a promise. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't wondering what I was missing. I was standing right in front of it. We didn't label anything that night. That might have been the most surprising part. No what are we now, no joking deflection, no sudden need to define every edge of what we just stepped into. Carter stayed over like he had 100 times before, except this time the space between us felt intentional instead of accidental. We sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, legs stretched out, rerunning some dumb sitcom neither of us was actually watching. Every so often, our eyes would meet, and we'd both smile like we were in on a secret. You still good? He asked quietly. Yeah, I said, just recalibrating. He chuckled. Same. It was strange how normal it felt. Like this wasn't a beginning so much as a correction. Two people finally standing where they'd always been leaning toward. When I rested my head against his shoulder, it felt inevitable, not impulsive. I always wondered what this would feel like, he said. And, I asked, like something I shouldn't overthink, he replied. I smiled into his shoulder. We fell asleep like that, tangled in blankets and quiet. Morning light was what got me. I woke up half aware, the way you do when your body realizes something's different before your mind does. Carter was still there. His face was relaxed in sleep, stripped of all that confidence he wore so easily when he was awake. For a split second, panic flickered. The what now reflex. Then he stirred, eyes blinking open, unfocused at first. When he registered me, his mouth curved into a lazy, unmistakably fond smile. Hey, he murmured. Hey, no awkward scramble, no pulling away, just presence. You regret anything? He asked, not accusing, just checking. I thought about it, about the risk, about how everything would be different now. No, I said honestly. Do you? He shook his head. Not even a little. We lay there longer than necessary, talking about nothing important, what we wanted for breakfast, how bad the weather was supposed to get, a movie we kept meaning to watch. Ordinary things layered over something quietly huge. Eventually, reality nudged back in. We should probably tell people, I said. Carter sighed. Yeah, at least the ones who already think we're idiots. I laughed. So, everyone? Pretty much. He sat up, stretching, then looked back at me, expression turning more serious. Whatever this turns into, he said, I want you to know, I'm not rushing you. I just don't want to hide anymore. I sat up too, meeting his gaze. Neither do I. That felt like the real promise. Not perfection, not certainty, just choosing not to pretend. And for the first time, the future didn't feel like something I had to brace for. Felt like something we were stepping into, together. Telling people turned out to be easier than I thought. Not because it wasn't nerve-wracking, but because no one was actually surprised. The first person we told was Maya. She'd been my friend since before Carter, which meant she'd watched the entire slow burn disaster from the outside with brutal clarity. We met her for drinks after work. The three of us squeezed into a booth at our usual bar. Carter kept fidgeting. I noticed. Of course I did. So, Maya said, narrowing her eyes at us, why do you both look like you're about to confess to a crime? I opened my mouth, closed it again. Carter beat me to it. We're together, he said. There it was. Simple. Direct. Maya stared at us for a long second. Then she blinked. Then she laughed. Oh my God, she said. Finally. That's it. I asked. No shock? No questions. She leaned back, crossing her arms. Jared, I once watched you cancel a date because Carter had a bad day at work. And Carter, she looked at him pointedly, has been emotionally married to you since junior year. Carter groaned. Wow. Okay. I felt my face heat up, but I couldn't stop smiling. Well, Maya added, lifting her glass, I'm happy for you, truly. Just promise me one thing. What? We asked in unison. Don't screw it up by pretending again. That word followed us everywhere after that. Pretending, like the universe was done letting us get away with it. Some friends reacted with knowing grins. Others with raised eyebrows and a quick, "Yeah, that tracks." Couple people needed time. That was fine. Nothing about this felt fragile anymore. What surprised me most was how steady it felt with Carter. We didn't suddenly merge into some inseparable cliché. We still went to work, still had separate hobbies, still annoyed each other over stupid things. His habit of leaving cabinets open, my refusal to replace the toilet paper roll when it was clearly empty. But there was a new undercurrent now, a softness, a gravity. I caught him looking at me more openly, like he didn't have to hide it anymore. And when our hands brushed, they didn't pull away. One night, a few weeks in, we were back at my place, cooking dinner together. He was chopping vegetables, focused, sleeves rolled up. I leaned against the counter, watching him without any pretense this time. "You're staring," he said without looking up. "Yeah," I replied. "I am." He glanced at me, smiling. "Good or bad stare?" "Dangerous," I said. He laughed, then set the knife down and walked over, stopping right in front of me. "You okay?" he asked, searching my face. "Yeah," I said, just thinking about how weird it is that we almost didn't do this. Carter rested his forehead against mine. "Yeah, but we did." That was becoming our quiet mantra. Not what if, not someday. "You know," he said, "I used to think wanting this meant I was asking for too much." I turned toward him. And now, he said softly, "it feels like I was just finally honest about what I wanted." I thought about that for a long time after he fell asleep. About how fear had disguised itself as logic. How comfort had masqueraded as safety. How easy it was to call something friendship when love felt like too much responsibility. But love, real love, wasn't loud or reckless. It was this, choosing each other in small, deliberate ways. Not pretending, not hiding, just showing up. And for the first time, I didn't wonder how long it would last. I was too busy being present. The first real test didn't come from the outside. Came from us. It was a stupid argument. The kind that starts small and only gets sharp because neither person wants to say what they're actually feeling. Carter had been staying over more often. Most nights, really, and I caught myself missing the quiet routines I'd had before. Not him, just the predictability. He noticed before I said anything. Of course he did. "You've been a little distant," he said one night, standing in my doorway while I pretended to scroll through my phone. I sighed. "I'm fine." He didn't take the bait. "That's not an answer." I set the phone down, rubbing my face. "I just need a little space sometimes. That doesn't mean I don't want you here." Carter leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Not defensive, just bracing. "Okay, but it feels like you're pulling away." There it was. The old reflex. The familiar dance. A month ago, we would have pretended nothing was wrong. Let it sit. Let it rot quietly. This time, we didn't. "I'm scared," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could soften them. "Not of you. Of messing this up. Of waking up one day and realizing I don't know how to be alone anymore." Carter's expression shifted immediately. No anger. No offense. Just understanding. "Jared," he said gently, stepping closer. "I don't want to replace your space. I just want to be part of your life." I nodded. "I know. I just need to say things out loud sometimes so they don't turn into something bigger." He considered that, then reached for my hand. "Then say them," he said. "I'm not going anywhere because you need room to breathe." That hit me harder than any argument could have. No tension, just honesty doing its quiet work. It became a pattern after that. Not perfection, just communication. Checking in. Calling things out before they turned into ghosts. And slowly, something shifted in me. I stopped waiting for the moment it would fall apart. I started trusting that if it did, we'd face it together. Love didn't erase who I was. It made room for me. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of staying. The moment it really hit me wasn't some big romantic milestone. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. I'd had a long day at work. Meetings that went nowhere, a deadline that got moved up for no good reason, the kind of exhaustion that sinks into your bones instead of your muscles. By the time I got home, all I wanted was silence. Carter was already there. He was sitting on the floor, back against the couch, laptop open, one earbud in. He looked up when I came in, pulled the earbud out. "Hey," he said, smiling. Not bright, not forced, just there. My chest loosened before I even realized it had been tight. "Hey," I replied, dropping my bag by the door. He didn't jump up, didn't ask a million questions, just closed his laptop and watched me for a second. "Rough day." I nodded. He opened his arms. Not dramatic, just an invitation. I went to him without thinking. He wrapped his arms around me easily, like this was muscle memory now. Like he knew exactly how much pressure I needed to feel grounded without feeling trapped. We didn't talk for a while. I stared at the wall. He rested his chin on my shoulder. The city noise filtered in through the window. Normal life continuing outside our little bubble. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't the rush I'd always thought love was supposed to be. It wasn't fireworks or chaos or obsession. It was relief. The kind that comes from not having to explain yourself. From being held without being fixed. From knowing you don't have to earn the right to rest. "You're really quiet," Carter murmured. "Just tired," I said. Then, after a pause, "But in a good way," he smiled against my neck. "You don't have to perform here, you know?" I closed my eyes. I thought about all the years we'd spent orbiting each other. All the almosts, all the excuses, all the pretending. And I realized something else too. We hadn't been afraid of losing each other. Later, standing in the kitchen, coffee brewing, I caught my reflection in the window. Same apartment, same city, same life mostly, but something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't bracing for love anymore. I was living inside it. And the thing was, it didn't feel like the end of pretending. It felt like the beginning of being honest. The words came out on a night that didn't feel like it was meant for them. We were on the roof of my building, sitting on mismatched patio chairs someone had dragged up years ago and never taken back down. The city stretched out below us, all soft lights and distant noise. Carter had brought beers. I'd brought a blanket. It was one of those quiet agreements that felt very us. We'd been talking about nothing, work, a trip we might take in the fall, how neither of us really liked the idea of moving but had both thought about it separately at some point. It was easy. Comfortable, the kind of conversation that didn't try to impress. Carter leaned back, eyes on the skyline. "You ever think about how different this all could have been?" "Yeah," I said, "but I don't get stuck there anymore." He nodded. "Me neither." A breeze cut through the warmth, and he shifted closer, pulling the blanket up around us. I rested my shoulder against his chest, fitting there like it had always been shaped for me. And then it happened. "I love you," I said. No build-up, no dramatic pause. Surprised both of us. Carter froze. For half a second, panic flared. Old instinct screaming that I'd moved too fast, said too much, crossed some invisible line. I started to pull back, already rehearsing an apology. But Carter's arms tightened around me. He let out a breath that sounded like he'd been holding it for years. "Yeah," he said softly. "I love you too." That was it. No fireworks. No grand declaration. Just truth finally spoken without fear. I tilted my head up to look at him. His eyes were shining, not overwhelmed, settled. Certain. "We really did pretend for too long," I said quietly. He smiled, brushing his thumb along my jaw. "Yeah, but I think we needed to stop pretending to ourselves first." We stayed up there until the beers were warm and the city started to quiet. Talking about stupid things, serious things, the kind of future talk that doesn't promise forever, but doesn't avoid it either. I thought about how close we'd come to missing this. How easy it would have been to keep calling it friendship. To keep choosing comfort over honesty. To never risk changing the shape of our lives. Instead, we chose each other. Not because it was dramatic. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And as I drifted off to sleep, wrapped in the steady presence of the man I loved, One thought settled deep and certain in my chest. We weren't pretending anymore, and that made all the difference.